Good afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on a Friday edition of On Q. I'm your host, as always, Rich Quinones, and we are powered by our wonderful friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. And of course, Played Against Sports on this, the 24th of October 2025. Yes, on a Friday, we like to call it a What the Frig Friday, and it's very simple to get in on the conversation and get social with me. And I can tell you, what made you say what the frig in the world of sports? That's transpired over the weekend, or over the week, I should say. Yeah, I think we know where we're going today. Jonathan Marshall, in about 10, 15 minutes or so, host of Marshall Time Hoops podcast, is going to join me. Always a welcome to our good friends, Bienvenido, that are tuning in from Channel 82 in Bermuda. And as I like to tell you guys, always get social with me. Always, always, always. Hope everyone had a good sports Thursday. You're enjoying your Friday as we kind of creep in to the NFL weekend. Game one of the World Series on the docket tonight as well. The Dodgers in Toronto, week 8 of the NFL. But oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? With the scandal, as everyone's saying right now, the nonsense, the gambling black eye that has been levied upon the NBA. What comes down yesterday and now has really just dominated the sports news cycle. What's dominated the sports world and the news cycle, to be honest. And I'll tell you this too. If you have the privilege of being behind a mic and you turn around and you don't start your show with the NBA, get that mic away from you, man. Get that mic away from you. Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier arrested in all these gambling inquiries. Shoes are going to be dropping left and right. This came down yesterday. Crazy. So you got Portland Trailblazers coach Chauncey Billups. You got Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier. You got a former Cleveland Cavaliers player as well, which we learned to find out, Damon Jones, all been arrested. Part of a wide-ranging investigation related to illegal sports betting, rigged poker games backed by La Costa Nostra, the mafia, the mob. I mean, you cannot make this up. 30 plus people were arrested. Now you're getting other names that are being dropped into this pot. And I would just say this. This to me, the Terry Rozier side of it, situation, it's not a shock. It's not a surprise. The Chauncey Billups and how elaborate these poker games were, how elaborate they schemed, how elaborate they were rigged, how elaborate, theft by deception, fraud. I mean, that to me is really the story. That to me is the story. Like, everyone's getting all bent out of shape with the the NBA and these players, and I've been saying it for years. I've been saying it for years when it comes to sports betting and sports gambling. I've said it at the mountain, on top of the mountain. I was basically screaming on the porch with you guys. We knew this day was going to come, or these days. And the FBI, the reports that are coming out, the details, the findings are just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And listen, we already knew the NBA was investigating Terry Rozier. They were trying to cover up the dirty laundry last season. And I can tell you right now, other names are going to be coming out. Now, do I know that is to be factual? No. Am I speculating? Pretty much, but I'm pretty confident that the you-know-what is beyond going to hit the fan. Beyond. But the Chauncey Billups, the rigged games, I mean, it's something out of a Bond movie. It's something out of a James Bond movie. The setup, the pitch, the bait, the carrot, tipping off, he was tipped off to this gambling ring, right? I mean, here's the new one. He was allegedly tipped off to the gambling ring, and now the Trailblazers plan to tank games, upcoming games. Look, the NBA and all these sports leagues got in bed with sports betting. They got in bed with sports gambling. And this is kind of the you make your bed and now you have to lie in it. And that's exactly where we're at right now with these sports leagues, especially the NBA. So when you're manipulating these player props, which people really don't understand, you know how much money because they're so you get a this is what I believe in the Terry Rozier case. Terry Rozier, who basically took himself out of a game and fed some information to somebody. And let's just call it the way it is. And that person basically fed somebody else, who fed somebody else, who fed somebody else, who fed somebody else. Whisper down the lane. Whisper down the lane. That's exactly how it starts. So now you go back and you watch the highlights. You look at some of these bets. When you see obscure bets, when you see the bet being bet up, when you see the odds change dramatically, when you see a $12,000, $13,000, $15,000 bet on a prop, obscure prop, again, that raises red flags, period. It raises red flags. And all you have to do is go back and you can listen, you know the exact moment this guy's throwing games for $200,000. It doesn't take a rocket science. You know, it's interesting that this comes about a day after the NBA tips off and you got the feds up there pounding their chest. I mean, Damon Jones trying to get this information, you know, hey, LeBron, you're going to play, you're not going to play. I think he's not going to play. His information wasn't 100% accurate. So that just tells you sometimes you think you're going to force feed some information, but it wasn't 100% accurate at the time. Because what if all of a sudden you're probable, you're doubtful, and then you turn around and you play? And again, you think about this. You go back to that game, Terry Rozier, you know, reaching down, grabbing his ankle, taking himself out of the game, right? His night was over. So you're going to hit all these under props. 5 minutes left, 3 minutes left in the game, right? I mean, it's not a shock. This is not a shock. This is not a surprise. Everyone thinks, oh my God, this is the end of sports as we know it. It's not. And some people are so misinformed and they're trying to do the holier than now with this stuff. I mean, oh my goodness, with some of these networks. I mean, ESPN, you know, the rat ship over there, the mothership talking about it and basically, no pun intended, hedging their bets. And then they got to take a graphic down that has to do with gambling. The story is Billups. That's the story. And how, again, for the life of me, you know, and all these theories are going on that these players, again, they were in debt, they were bankrupt, they lost money, they already had gambling problems. It's all speculation. But when you start to bring in the mafia, the mafioso, the mob into the mix, and you got the tinted glasses, you got the reflective glasses, you got the tracker with the chips and the tables. I'm telling you, man, this let's not act. This has been going on for years. Underground poker games, players gambling and betting in sports. I don't know why this is, you know, is the shit really going to hit the fan? Yeah, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. So you got to sit there and say, why in a guy like Terry Rozier, who's making 26 million at the time, 2025, 2026, why are you going to throw it away for 200K? Probably because you ran in with the wrong crowd. Probably. Probably. You ran with the wrong crowd and you got in line with the wrong guys. There's layer upon layer upon layer upon layer to dissect and break down when it comes to this. There's so many, but let's not be holier than now. Let's not act like for some moment or for some reason that this is, oh my God, the Billups is the story. Rozier is just a morsel. What Billups was doing, you're talking about theft by deception, wire fraud. I mean, just fraud. You know, illegal aspects all over the place. I can't even count. I mean, you're talking about the indictments from the feds. These guys, forget about basketball careers. These dudes are going to jail. They're going to jail. I can't make sense of it. I got to bring in my hoops guy, host of my guy Jonathan Marshall. What's going on, brother?
What's up, Q? Oh, never a dull moment in the NBA. I'll tell you
No,
that.
no,
That's one.
never a dull moment in the world of sports, right?
That's true.
And
That's
look,
true.
I know there's so many layers to unpack with
Mhm.
this. I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised at all, to be quite honest with you. The Billup story to me is the story. And Adam
Mhm.
Silver chose to put the NBA in bed with sports betting. And now you kind of see how dangerous this is. But my God, I don't know if you've read some of these reports and some of these details regarding Chauncey Billups and, having these girls at these poker, games and underground and, just rigged and dangling the carrot. I mean, it's just absolutely. And the new one comes out, Jonathan, that he allegedly tipped off an NBA gambling ring. The Trailblazers were playing in the tank games.
Mhm. Yeah. Where do you even start? And I think we've had this conversation before when it came to Malik Beasley, right? And
Yeah,
anytime I see these stories, even the Jonte Porter story, it's like more is going to come out. These aren't the only guys, right? And so it's like, how deep does this thing go? How far back does it even go, right? We're talking about coaches, we're talking about players, we're talking about staff members, right? Team members, right? Not even just players and coaches. How deep does this go on a team level?
right.
You know what I'm saying? And the question I have is, how does a guy like Chauncey Billups even get himself involved in something? Talking about the mafia.
But that's what I'm saying. I
Forget
think,
forget basketball, right? We're talking about something even
yeah.
deeper and something that,
Yep, yep,
really your livelihood, your freedom
yep.
is not in your hands anymore.
No, and to your point, again, I think the Rozier thing was, um, you know, he probably just got caught with his hand in a cookie jar, and then what happens,
Yeah,
right? You're
right.
pretty look, I like even with the Jones situation, LeBron's, hey, how do you feel? I might go, I might not go. Okay, even when he conveyed that information, it wasn't 100% accurate at the end of the day. But again, it makes no sense. Like you're talking about a player or now a coach and Billups 35 million. Like you can't make it
Mhm,
up. You can't make this up. And that's the problem. Like, the NBA, the NFL, all these professional leagues they were basically cooked once they
mhm,
start to take money and partner with sports betting books, period. But when you start to have conversations, when the FBI comes out and they're pounding their chest talking about, the mafia getting involved and all these Italian mafia and these crime families in New York that are muscling in and threats and violence, that means you're really running with a bad crowd. So
mhm.
again, when the details kind of come out, okay, how did this, step one, day one, how did this really come about? And that is where the what's going to hit the fan, in my opinion.
I'm not sure if people are ready for the true story to come to light, the deeper details of this situation. Like you said, Q, I mean, you can watch ESPN. They have ESPN Bet underneath the screen
I can't, that is a joke, by the way, Jonathan. That's an
while,
embarrassment.
while
I'm trying
talking
to take
about
you
these
serious as a
stories.
sports outlet, and
Yeah,
you got
right,
ESPN Bet while you're
right.
talking about the story.
What is it about? That's all. That's all. At the end of the day, they just want to make more money.
Yeah,
That's what it comes down to. The people who are dealing with these gambling rings want to make more money, and these pro leagues want to make money. And you think it's one thing about the pros. Wait until the college scandals start to come out even more because we're seeing more stories come out, but we haven't even scratched the surface when it comes to that.
that's a problem too because now they're allowing these athletes, these college
Exactly.
athletes, you're allowed to bet. And the
Yeah.
problem is, you have these NIL deals. You got young kids that have their accessibility to these apps. I think it's going to
Mhm,
open up Pandora's box, an ugly Pandora's box. Um, Listen, you had 30 something odd people that were arrested. You had a lot of mobbed
mhm.
up people that were arrested. Obviously, Chauncey Billups, spearheaded a lot of this with these rigged poker games. And for that, listen, it's not even about the optics of perception, right? I mean, think about this. If you're Adam Silver right now, you want it to be known as the commissioner that was forward thinking, right? That's all we heard, forward thinking. But now you got egg on your face big time, man. You have egg on your face absolutely big time. And I'll go you another route that we really haven't talked about. If you're the Naismith, basketball Hall of Fame at the end of the day, that's another conversation for down the road. But a guy like Chauncey Billups, you're in.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
now what happens? Like to me, this, you got a lot of rats in this play, right? You got a lot of rats at the end of the day. And this to me is like a Hollywood script. And it just goes on and on. I mean, when you're talking about some of these mafia members, some of these key figures, I mean, and some of the names, if you follow that kind of stuff, are very
Mhm.
familiar. And listen, I'm telling you right now, this is what's going to happen. Who's going to be first to try to cut a deal? Because that's where we're at. Who's going to be first
Yeah.
to talk?
Yeah.
Because guess what?
Somebody's
I'm
going to
only
talk.
going to allow one or two.
Somebody's going to talk.
Maybe two people are allowed to come in and cut a deal. And oh, by the way, your buddy's getting ready to yap. He's getting ready to talk. Give me something. So we talk about the rats really coming out right now, Titanic sinking. But how do you enforce? I don't believe you can enforce this, but I feel as though it's so easy in the NBA in basketball to manipulate the player props. A steal here, a turnover here, a missed shot here. I think it's a lot more clearer that we can see something's a little miss in the NFL. Cleveland had the issue with the baseball and the balls and the strikes with the pitchers, but to me, I think you can manipulate it very easily in the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, when these stories pop out, we're seeing these videos, these highlights of, like a Terry Rozier and some turnovers, questionable, shot selection, right? Um, in the moment, you're not really thinking, twice because in the grand scheme of a basketball game, we've seen disastrous turnovers, crazy shots, right? And so, especially guys who are at this skilled level, there are ways that you can sort of, like you said, manipulate to where it's
Yeah,
not so obvious that, oh, this shot is way off. No, I know how to sort of, make my shot seem like I'm aiming for it, but I know how to slightly turn it to the left, to the right, or what have you, to make it seem like, oh, this is a legitimate miss without any
yep,
underlining ulterior motives, right? And so
yeah,
it's kind of hard to enforce unless these findings and these investigations, continue. But outside of that, like, they have a problem now because now we're watching games with a different set of eyes, right? We're questioning, okay, why did the
correct.
coach take this guy out at this time? Why did like certain things, like why is this guy missing this game all of a sudden? Like, right? Like
That's
certain
another
things
thing.
now we got to
Load
turn our
management.
eyes to. Is it really low management? What are we really managing? You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's funny because you look at the 31 people involved
Mhm.
and that they were arrested. I mean, this is a friggin' who's who of scumbags. I mean, the one Tommy Juice, Gallardo, this guy was a runner for years and a collector. I mean, I think he got arrested also for domestic abuse, beating on his girlfriend. I mean, there's some of these names, man. It's crazy. And then you see Chauncey Billups, Portland Trailblazers coach. The
Yeah.
other thing is Brian Windhurst came out and basically said that the NBA knew of this,
Mhm.
okay, and basically, um, quote, just shelved Terry Rozier for the rest of the season with an injury.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, that's very telling. I also think, man, if you're going to go that route, you better be able to substantiate it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many layered conversations with this. Like, I think the question is how and why would a guy like Chauncey Billups or Terry Rozier, guys who are making millions, involve themselves? Well, there's multiple reasons, right? I'm not going to try to play psychologist and pinpoint one reason, but don't get it mistaken. When you're a pro athlete, the connections, the people that you're meeting on a daily basis, you can easily get caught up if you're not careful. If you get caught up in the wrong circle, the wrong conversation, it could be trouble for you. You know what I mean? And so these guys are competitive. These guys are making a lot of money. And with that comes the desire to get even more, the desire to keep up, right, with your peers, and the desire to upkeep the lifestyle that you have, right? And so you're at a position where your NBA contract may not even be enough to sustain the lifestyle and the people that you have on your personal staff, right? Whatever financial responsibilities that you have. Like, this conversation can go multiple ways, and that's easily how a person, and also just gambling addiction, right? Simple as that. So
Well,
it's just there's layered multiple reasons as to why a professional athlete can get involved with this.
yeah.
It sounds
And
crazy to us,
Right.
But when you
But
think
it
about it, it's
doesn't.
not really.
It doesn't because you're
Yeah,
talking to someone who's worked in the industry, who's worked
yeah,
in the sports betting industry, who's worked in
yeah,
the online industry, who's worked in the
yeah,
casino industry, who's been
yeah,
doing a sports betting pod before, gambling pod before people were actually doing it on a
yeah,
regular basis, right? None of this comes as a surprise. I just think it's so elaborate. Like even the Damon Jones, right?
mhm,
So here's a guy that gets a little information, tries to pass it along, and then as I mentioned, pass along, pass along, pass along, pass along, and even some of his information was not 100% accurate. So now all of a sudden, we want to connect the dots. Well, hey, LeBron's not playing. Okay, but that doesn't mean he turned around, and it doesn't mean he didn't. Hey man, I'm not playing. Tell your boys. Now you get Kevin Garnett's names being floating in there with this underground with these poker games. I know this. I've actually had. I know some guys down in former guys that D1 athletes that, well, I'll read a text in a minute. This is from a
mhm,
former NBA player that actually
mhm.
just texted me like 2 minutes ago when we started and I came on the air. But those games are prevalent all over the place, and
For sure.
athletes are always there. I'm going to read this. I'm going to just bear with me. I'm going to read this,
Yeah,
and you tell me. Now
mhm,
I'm not going to. This is a text I got
yeah,
at 4:13.
mhm,
Q, listening to the show, great stuff. These underground shady games are not rare at all. We were
mhm,
told my first year in the league, when we get to certain town, go right to the hotel, not to get involved in anything that seems shady. Some players listened, others didn't. I always steered clear because I knew it was bad news. But do me a favor when you can. Everyone knows about the 2002 playoffs, the Lakers and the Kings. We all know about Tim Donaghy. He's been all over the place. We know about the disparity, but double check the Eastern Conference Finals. The Nets versus Boston, Q. The league was dying to get the Celtics Lakers in the finals instead of the Nets and Lakers, who swept the Nets for nothing. Rich, I'm telling you, go back to game 3 right now. Lakers attempted 35 foul shots, Nets 19. Go to game 4. Lakers shot 37 free throws, Nets 16. Enough said. The refs have been in bed with the shady books and mafia for years, and now the mafia and the shady books have gone to the players. It's because they get set up with these poker games, more or less, and they meet up with the wrong dudes. That text that I just read to
enough
you
said.
was was from a player, and I'm not going to name him, that played in the NBA for 4 years. Now,
Yeah,
now
yeah,
everyone remembers, and I don't know if you were interning for me at the time, but I'm trying to get Donaghy on. I had him on the Monday after the 60 Minutes piece aired,
mhm,
and I grilled him. And I
yeah,
absolutely grilled him. It was
yeah, I
probably
remember,
some of the
yeah,
best radio I ever had in my life. But
yeah.
now, in hindsight, everything Tim Donaghy said, he was 100% correct.
Oh, for sure. Like I said, it wasn't just Donaghy. If it's one, there's a handful more. If there's a handful more, there's even more than that. And so that text that you got, I mean, what more has to be said? It goes back to what I'm saying. And once you're in that world, there's no limit to the people and the circles that you can find yourself into. And once you're into the wrong crowd, yeah, it can get very spooky.
Yeah, here's the other thing. I go to bat for you, right?
Yeah,
I'm in a
yeah,
league, or I know I got millions and millions of dollars, and you got a problem, and I cover it up. I go to bat for you, and I'm going to take on that debt, and then you just keep, you know, running up, running up, running up, running up the juice, running up the vig. Here we go, here we go. Now I got to start paying it off, right? But I just don't understand why, when you're making hundreds of millions of dollars, I don't get it. Are you that greedy? Is it a psychological thing? Is it just going back to like the
it's
street, that gangster wannabe role? It does not make sense at all. And I just, for the life of me, man, you're going to have so many snitches come out right now because they're going to try to cover their ass. And the other
mhm,
thing is, Billups was arrested. Let's not get it twisted. In a separate scheme, charging him with accepting payments from the mob.
mhm,
Okay. Payments from the mob to play in fixed poker games. So now I'm attracting all these sharks, all these whales, even some of these dumb fish that have no idea what the hell's going on. And they basically, I'm using my clout as an athlete, bringing other athletes, getting fish who have no idea how to play. But the enticement, the allure, the appeal is you're going to sit down and play cards with a former pro. And again, man, they were fleeced millions of dollars in these games. And the way they did it was I'm telling you, it was stuff like out of a James Bond movie. Can't make it up.
I'm still trying to take in all this information, and but one thing I do know
Yeah.
is that the names are going to keep coming out.
Ah,
We're going to see more information be revealed in due time because, as you said, somebody's going to talk,
oh,
and
you kidding? Someone's
just just
Jonathan.
just prepare.
Listen. Somebody's
Yeah,
already talking
yeah.
as we speak at this moment. Somebody is already talking whose name is about to get dropped, and I, you know how long
Self-preservation at
I've
this
been
is
saying
the, is
this.
the game.
Yeah. But what happens when it is a coup de grace name? Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? Like,
I know what you're saying.
and I'm not trying to be. Listen. I'm not trying to be naive here, and I'm not trying to do the Babe in the Woods routine, right? But it's a story. It's a big story.
Mm.
But Billups to me is the bigger story than what Terry Rozier.
Yeah, for sure,
It's just me,
for
and I
sure.
can tell you this: when I worked, even early on when I was doing radio to start my career, I worked in the casinos. I would see
Mm,
these guys
mhm,
come down. Basketball players were the
mhm.
biggest gamblers I've ever seen in my
For
life.
sure, for sure, for
Ever
sure.
seen in my life, and I just I feel as though the other shoe is dangling, and when it drops,
Mhm,
that's when the real shit kinda hits the fan. Now, let me ask you this, and I know we're tight on time. If you're Adam Silver,
mhm.
I mean, come on,
It's
man.
too
How
late,
do I
Q. It's too late. The floodgates have opened. Once you're in, like, come on.
Yeah.
On my device right here, anybody has a phone. I'm tapped into whatever I want to bet on. Like it's there. The conversation on social media, it's there. Instead of talking about stats when people they're talking about your parlays and the over under. Like that's the conversation now. You understand what I'm saying? So once the floodgates have opened, you can't bring it back in. You got to let this thing play out. And the bed that you've made, you got to deal with it. And so nobody's hands are clean in this. The players, the coaches, the leagues, the owners, the GMs, nobody's hand is clean. The colleges, the ADs, I'm called like all of them.
Do we
It's
look at
greed.
this now and really say that the integrity of these games and these leagues, it's beyond compromised, or is this, you have to call it in question, right?
I mean, these stories keep happening, Q. So how can you not question it? Like it's
You know
there.
what's really pathetic though? ESPN sits there, the rat
Mhm,
mothership sits there,
mhm.
and they don't even have the balls to lead off with this story. They're talking about, I
Right.
mean, if you're in the media
Mhm.
and you have a microphone and you're a friggin' local yokel clown on the air and you want to start off talking about, the friggin' Sixers or the
Yeah.
friggin', MVP odds after one game, get the frig off the air, man. Seriously,
Yeah.
get the frig. So they start, ironically enough, with Wembley's effort the other night and updated MVP odds after one friggin'
Of
game. And
course.
then the little rats decide we're going to get the ESPN bet logo off the screen. It's like, come on, man. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
again, don't
It's
give
a
me the
dirty
babe in
game.
the friggin' yeah, don't give me the babe in the woods routine. It's utterly ridiculous. It really is. It's embarrassing to be quite honest with you.
Listen, at the end of the day, the root of this all is the love of money and greed. That's what it all comes down to. From the players to the mafia to ESPN to these networks to these leagues, it's all greed, Q. And with greed comes these issues, and now we're seeing it come to pass. So just sit back, kick back, and enjoy the movie because this is a movie. That's what we're in real life. This is what we're watching.
All right, I know I got to let you get out of here. Maybe we'll hit something over the weekend or early next week. All right, I always appreciate you, brother. I was going to
All right,
just ask
Q.
you 30 seconds on your Eagles and the
Mhm.
Giants again. You know,
Listen, you guys caught us by surprise, and Jackson Dart is a promising young rookie. I'm hoping you guys don't break them like you did Daniel Jones, because apparently you leave New York and quarterbacks know how to play again. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. How is Daniel Jones looking competent with the Colts? But that's another conversation for
Yeah,
another
yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah.
We're getting our payback on Sunday. I have no issues. You guys got to worry about that loss to Denver and how that came to pass. But that's a whole other conversation. Lock in for Sunday. We're ready. That was your Super Bowl Q. So congratulations.
You know what? Hey, listen, I can't wait when we really start to get into the legit NBA conversation. Appreciate a couple moments, brother. Thank you.
All right, Q. Take it easy.
All right, there you have it, my guy Jonathan Marshall. A lot of comments coming in. Yes, for those that missed it, I will go back and I will read off that text. But I got a lot of comments coming in, and like I said, listen, it is a story. It's a national story. It's a major news story. It's a major sports cycle story. Um, it's beyond crazy because, like I said, I'm going to get to your comments. Like Kevin chimes in, Q, I think Rozier's the bigger story. I don't believe so. Billups to me is the bigger story. And you can listen, you know how many guys that listen in this show play poker or gamble? These guys will tell you. These guys sit at tables for 10, 11, 12 hours. And I'm sure they play underground poker and sat at some of these tables where maybe it wasn't on the up and up and it was a touch or a tad shady. And the problem is when you're tipping off a betting ring that I'm about to tank games or I'm about to tank a game, come on, man. Like what led you? What drove you to that point? You ever sit there and have that come to Jesus moment? Like I don't know, something happens in life and you're sitting there by yourself and you're like, man, how did I get here? Like, what was Chauncey Billups' how did I get here moment where he was so desperate? And maybe it was, as Jonathan alluded to, greed, where he's tipping off a betting ring that I'm about to tank a game, right? Against the Bulls. And that my best player is not going to be playing. See, now this opens up, it's hilarious. I'm reading all these stories, and then what's encapsulated in the dynamic lead? Promo codes, right? Here you go. About breaking news on ESPN, promo code ESPN bets, right? ESPN rats. It's unbelievable. But it's so elaborate that what they did, and to have 30 something odd people, and then you're getting in bed with the mafia. And the FBI guy, this guy was a freaking piece of work. I mean, this guy was pounding the chest out, right? And then the FBI director comes out and actually slams solitary Stephen A, saying that Trump's getting revenge on the M. Shut the hell up, Stephen A. But the FBI guy, man, this guy was theatrical. Just he loved the fact when he was getting saying, La Costa Nostra, aka the mafia. Yeah, we know what the frig it is. We know what it is. But Windhorse to me, that is that the smoking gun? Is that the smoking gun coming out with that comment? I mean, think about that. He's literally saying the NBA knew, right? The sports books caught the irregular betting on Terry Rozier that day it happened. He didn't play the rest of the season. He had faked the injury, so it wasn't because of the injury. The NBA pulled him. I mean, that to me, you're saying that? Wow. Wow. And the NBA, I mean, what do you do with Adam Silver? How does this man still have a job as a commissioner? That's a total disgrace. And listen, I talk odds. I've been doing it for years. I got to back your play pod. I always make a point, right? It's entertainment purposes only. We're not selling, we're not shilling, we're not doing any of that stuff. I know some guys are asking, what about some of these younger college athletes? Very accessible to money, especially with these NIL deals. I think it is a mistake that the NCAA now, hey, you want to go bet on games, that's fine. I just, athletes can bet on pro sports and NCAA athletes. To me, you're just you are opening up a can of worms, man, because most of these young kids that get hooked and addicted, right? I know some of you guys, I know some of you guys who are very young that comment in the show, or you guys hit me up on social media. And we're talking 22, 23, 24. You guys get hooked right away. There's like no bankroll management. There's no money management. You guys are almost obsessed with it. And that's the problem now. You're opening up Pandora's box because, as Jonathan said, it's it's a touch away. I want to get to some of these comments. It's a very bad look, but as I alluded to, it's not surprising. The ghost of Luca Brasi. Oh, very good. That's very good. That's very good. Yeah. That's, you know what? By the way, the actor, Lenny Montana. Um, you get one time waiver to talk NBA, but only Billups and Rozier. If Billups was a lure and led people into a rigged poker game, he deserves some street justice. That is a rat, Q, right? Vince says, honestly, Q, non-story. None of this is story. Come on. DOG has been on some weird ish for a while now. Let's not give them what they want. Headline, do you see any mafia figures arrested or just black men? I mean, Vince, what are we doing here? 34 people were arrested. Mafia guys were arrested. Come on, man. Come on, be better than that. It's a huge story. Do I believe it's a shocking story? No, I don't. I was impressed with the technology. It means the mafia want to cheat. Do you think the casinos use tech as well? It's too regulated from the casinos. It's just too regulated. Seriously, it's too regulated. They risk losses of billions of dollars in revenue, right? Billions of dollars over time. They're not that dumb. It's just gambling is a game of chance. The problem is, even like for us as kids, what do we do? Right? Flipping caps, shooting dice, playing cards for shits and giggles. I mean, we learn so young. You guys turn 21. What happens? You all go, you have a pop, your legal age, go to the bar, maybe go down to Atlantic City or go to the casino. It's like a rite of passage. Like no one's sitting here saying, some of you guys are chiming in, like Mike in Montclair is saying this is why they should not ever legalize sports betting. But that's your opinion. And I appreciate your opinion, but everything should be in moderation. It should, but I can't teach you that. I can't tell you that. Only you can do that. We're talking about athletes now that have, connections, ties, accessibility, cash, millions of dollars, some hundreds of millions of dollars. You're gonna, to me, I'm not. If I'm making $25 million a year, and I tell my buddy, I don't think I'm gonna play today. Put a $15,000 bet in, or you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna creep out in the first quarter. I'm not gonna hit my 18-point average. Throw 50,000 on the under. The good job of the books and the apps in this regard is that they police it, they enforce it, they monitor it. Red flags go off. It looks like it's an off bet to them. So eventually, forget about the paper trail. You're always going to get caught. I mean, there's some clown on X that basically reshared a tweet that he mentioned about Rozier that same game, and now all of a sudden he literally had a right. The FBI is contacting me. Like, what are you doing, you clown? Don't put that out there. Don't reshare it. Why? Because you think you got some inside information? Guilt by association. But it's regulated to this regard. They do a good job and they flag the bet. They flag it, right? Something's a bit off. Now, the poker games, totally, totally different. I thought of James Caan all day yesterday. His role in that movie, man, he was a scumbag. You talking about the original Gambler with James Caan. When he basically wanted them to hit him when he was sitting at 17 at the table. Yeah. And then he owed about 40,000. Remember that beach scene? He basically drew it in the sand and they went to the bank and you had a very young James Woods, the bank teller, and he wouldn't recognize, he didn't want to give the money because he wanted more information from James Caan's mom during that scene. And James Caan like grabbed him and basically said, give me the effing money. Like James Caan played that to a T. Be ridiculous gambling degenerate. Even when he won, he couldn't walk away. It's like he kept playing because he wanted to lose. It's all psychological. That's all it is. It's all psychological, right? It's again the highs and the lows. Can the NBA excommunicado him out of the Basketball Hall of Fame? Who knows? That's the least of his problems, man. That's the least of Chauncey Billups' problems. And someone texted me or emailed me uh, the other day because I wasn't on the air and they wanted to get my thoughts and like, man, their careers are over. Yeah, but Terry Rozier, you think he really cares that his career's over at this point? They're more concerned about going to jail. You're not talking about a 20-year-old kid. You're talking about guys that have been in the NBA. They've had a cup of coffee. They've had long careers. They made millions of dollars. What's the incentive to get in bed like this? Unless, as I mentioned, here's information, do with it as you please, and it's passed to a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. Now 20 friends know. It's so easy to manipulate those player props, and they're never going to get rid of them because if 1,000 guys are betting $5 here and there all over the place, that's all you guys chime in with player props over, rushing yards, first time, anytime score, anytime touchdown. There's thousands of them, and all that money's adding up. So this thought is they're going to get rid of them altogether. They're not. They're not going to do that. Duncan Ad chimes in, boom, such a cover up. Tim was the lowest level. Yeah, but Donaghy actually turned out to be accurate. He really did. The entire league. Listen, if you go back, even in the NFL, right? The NFL, if you go back to the 60s, the Paul Hornings, right? Alex Karras, the NFL had gambling problems back then. I mean, you go back to baseball, the Black Sox scandal. It's one of the reasons the Betting and Gaming Act came about in 1960. But like this has been going on for years. This has been going on for years, and I think now it's more prevalent and prominent because again, like so Karras was suspended the entire 1963 season, right? And that led to the domino effect, Paul Horning, who was also suspended. And the interesting thing is, they were involved, they were associating with gamblers, and that lasted like a year or so. And they were penalized, they were both reinstated. Here we go. And they were fined, I mean, back then, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 was a lot of money. It was a lot of money. But guess what? They went on to play. They went on to continue their careers. So I'm not suggesting that you allow a guy like Terry Rozier. That's not what I'm suggesting. And oh, by the way, Paul Hornings, he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So the NBA, they're not going to make concessions here, but it's a major black eye because this is what Rozier, when they were trying to do their own in-house investigation, the kid Porter, we talked a little bit about that. The Donaghy thing, you go back to college in the 70s, the point shaving up in Boston College, Arizona State in the mid 80s. It's been going on for years. It's worse now. Again, it's worse now because all these leagues are in bed with all these books. The optics are hard. Like, what did you expect? To me, the Billups thing is just the coup de grace, man. I think the fish was the only person who was not on it. Who will be the first fish come forward? I'm telling you, someone's turning. Vince Carter, I watched him make his brother play $5 blackjack at Borgata, talking about the little side table, which is no longer there. Side note, he had two of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life on him. There you go, man. Now that's bringing something to the table on a Friday. That's good stuff. Almost forgot. Marshall, an associate of the bunker. That is bringing something to the table. Windhurst, he said the quiet part out loud, and now the NBA responds amazing. Pandora's box is open, and they can't shut it. Wow. They can't. But why are we shocked by this? NBA or The Sting, which is the better movie? Well, come on, The Sting. I mean, you kidding me? Come on. Lonigan, great movie, right? Paul Newman, classic. Gripped in for 30 years. I never got revenge. Revenge is for suckers. That was so much blow in the 80s baseball there. Had to be what? There was so much blow in the 80s baseball there. Had to be someone in trouble in throwing games. I don't put anything past anyone, to be honest with you. I don't. Let's not act holier than thou with these leagues, right? All right, Q. So how do we fix this? How do we stop the feeling of it's the fans It's a fan's face that all sports seems to alter outcomes. How do we fix this? You can't. There's what so every time now that you watch a football game, well, I wouldn't say every time. We watch football games. When there's a no call, what do we do? Right? When there's a no call, what do? We sit there and say, oh my God, the game's fixed. What's going on? How did they miss that? When the player takes a knee, what do we want to sit there and say? I can't believe he scored a touchdown. He just cost me money. Like, we're always going to have those problems. Like, but I think you have to be very weary if you are sports betting and gambling. It would maybe pose a little bit of a red flag or a little caution. You might want to think twice. I'm not going to tell you don't. I'm not going to tell you do, but there's really nothing to fix. It's the athletes are giving an opportunity, their livelihood, right, to make hundreds of millions of dollars to play a professional sport. They've earned that right. They deserve the right, but they can easily lose the right to play. So I said this years ago, and it was right after the Donaghy interview when I spoke to him. Now, again, he went on 60 Minutes that Sunday. He did one spot that Monday, one spot the entire country. He came on my show. I had him on for almost an hour. It was some of the best radio I ever had in my life because, you allowed him to speak, but I grilled the hell out of him. And I had all questions lined up. I based it on the interview. He actually disclosed stuff that wasn't said at that time. And now that I go back and I kind of put together what he was saying at that time, athletes, they're humans at the end of the day. The referees are human. Once you fall into the wrong crowd and you get sucked in, no matter what the rationale, the reasoning is, you're screwed. And I think in the part of Terry Rozier, maybe he just told a friend who told a friend who told a friend, and then they start to lean on those people and they lean back on him. And it's just pure stupidity. Chauncey Billups is a little more elaborate, if that makes sense. Like, Chauncey Billups decided, I'm going to connect, associate with the mob. That's exactly what he did. That's exactly what he did. He decided, I'm gonna, cut up with the mafia. And I don't know how, you think something good is gonna come about that? Really? I mean, it's explosive news, man. When you have, 30 indictments tied to illegal gambling scandals and 3 current and former prominent NBA figures. And again, you're talking about a coach and a player, Chauncey Billups, a notable player in Terry Rozier, and then Damian Jones. Okay, you want to call him a journeyman, but whatever. And then 23, 24 others. I mean, that press conference was like a circus. They were pumping their chest out. It is, you're talking about an NBA fraud scheme. To me, that's the bigger story. Chauncey Billups, you're talking about a fraud scheme, man. And listen, here's the thing. The NBA knows we got to remove these guys from the public eye. Well, you don't have to worry about it now because soon they're going to be in jail. But the bottom line is you had to. Like, the hell with the legal process. It's going to play out. But the NBA, obviously, whatever list they determine to put them on, you have to separate yourself from this. But the crazy thing about this, it's a big story now because it drops opening night, the day after opening night. Now, here's the reality. Here's the reality. If this story occurred September 1st, a month before the season, we forgot about it. We already forgot about it. That's the reality. Now tell me, why does it drop? Why does it drop all of a sudden? Why does this come to light a day after the NBA tipped off? Explain that to me. There's so many layers to unpack. It's just, now you got the report that Kevin Garnett was among former athletes who took part in a 2019 private poker game tied to some cats that were indicted in the Operation Royal Flush. Now, Pablo Torre's been, listen, I get on him, but he's as good as they come when it comes to investigative. The timing, everything is just ridiculous. I mean, you've got the FBI, you've got the co-conspirator, right? A relative of Rozier who used non-public information to win 1,500 at an online sports book off one under bet. So again, over under. Is he going to score more than 15 points or come under 15 points? Over under. And this occurred in 2023 during a Hornets game. Co-conspirator 6 then lost 4,000 on multiple online events at the same sports book shortly thereafter. So again, even some of the information that was conveyed wasn't as accurate. Right? I'm just saying MJ had poker games on the plane back when he was playing, in my opinion. That's why he left the NBA for a year. It was either retire or be suspended. That is the rumor that a lot of people believe. A lot of people have tried to connect, and there's no validity to this. But, you know, I remember some idiot went on the air and said his father was murdered because of gambling debts. No, that's just so way off, and just it's an irresponsible take. Now, to your point, yes, a lot of people believe that it was okay. You want to play baseball? Timing's perfect. Go away for a little bit. Hush, hush. Let this boil over. And everyone knows guys like Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan and Allen Iverson. You know, these guys are big time game. I remember seeing these guys in AC. These guys would come down to Caesars all the time. They, you know, the hell with a marker, rolling with cash. And by the way, Yager still owes Atlantic City money. Yammer Yager, right? WWE, NBA, what's the difference now? Nothing. Listen, well, the difference is this, right? People are trying to profit off what's going on in the NBA. I don't see anyone trying to profit off the WWE. But to your point about being fixed, right? That's different. That's different. Rozier's contract voided. Was Garnett to Fish? Well, everyone believes that maybe Gilbert Arenas kind of came out and said something. I will say this. People are going to talk, and it's just like when you watch these movies, right? Um, First one to flip. You go back and watch that film, the highlights of that game, and you're like, yeah, this guy's throwing this game. This guy's throwing this game. And you can listen. Sarge chimes in. Come on, Gil. Come on, Q. Guilty until proven innocent. But come on, there's too much here. It's not even about the guilt factor, right? It's they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. The FBI, what do you think? They're just going to do a half-assed investigation and not do their due diligence? And I watched last night, you know, Barkley and Kenny Smith going back and forth. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's very, it's a lot of people want to dismiss this, but the problem is you have to really dig to the root of all evil here, right? And it's not the players, you know, it's not the money they're making, it's not, you know, the mob, the mafioso. It's not, as Jonathan said, ultimately it's what they believe they can get, what they, you know, the power, the ego, the money, right? It's a sickness. And once you get sucked into that, you're done. You're done. It's like go to bat for someone who goes to bat for someone who goes to bat for someone. And then guess what? You're stuck with the check. And I'm telling you, man, these guys, I'm sure the weight of the world was on them. I'm not giving them a pass. I'm not condoning what Chauncey Billups did. When you start to get into this stuff by deception, you're not going to see the sun, my friend. You're not. You're not. That's the least of your concerns about the NBA and coaching and all this stuff. And it is a nightmare right now. It is a nightmare for the NBA. And if people don't see that, the NBA was already under scrutiny. They were already under scrutiny. The NFL is always under scrutiny. The NFL decided we're taking a team to Vegas, we're going to get in bed. But you can't have your cake and eat it too. That's kind of the one issue I have. Like, you can't sit there and piss and moan and denounce it, right? Gambling and sports betting. And then all of a sudden, as you're saying it, you got a pop up for a promo code. I mean, every time you look, everywhere you go, the bottom scroll, the ticker, injury report. Why do you think I have an injury report in sports? It's for the gambling line. I'm telling you, man, when you go and you even look at the Jones information, so he's telling bettors back in 2024 another Lakers player is going to miss a game because of an injury. And before that information, which everyone, what are you paying for in life? What's the most valuable asset? Information, knowledge was made public. And the only player fitting the indictment's description was Anthony Davis. Now all of a sudden it's like guilt by association, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. I mean, it's not fair to these guys unless they had a hand in it, which you would like to think they didn't. And Billup's attorney, I mean, you're talking about never gamble on basketball games. Come on, man. He provided from he got in bed with the mob. And the NBA, apparently they investigated like 30 something different scenarios over the years of gambling within the league. And the whole Porter thing, they banned this kid for life. It's bad, man. I'm telling you, it's bad. Am I shocked? No, but it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. I don't think so. I do not think there's a plea out. I don't. I don't. I honestly, I don't believe there's a plea out. I think he's screwed, man. I think he's screwed. I really do. Let me just read this real quick. Yeah, I mean, some of these names are just. Let me see. Tom and Summers Point said, "Q, I missed it. Can you go back and go over what you're talking about?" So, if you guys are just, I know we're already at 5, and we are going to get into the NFL today as well. So this was, I told you this. I'll pull it up because I moved it over into my box. So this kind of tells you. So this was, and again, 5 o'clock on a Friday on Q, powered by our good friends over at Get Ready with Tea, Fresh Roasted Coffee, Three Brooks Bourbon. Played Against Sports. Don't forget, you can catch us on the YouTube channel. I got a lot of comments coming in. So this was a text I got about 10 minutes in the show from a former player that I know, NBA player. Q. Underground shady games are not rare at all. And again, if you just heard this 20, 30 minutes ago, sorry, I'm just for some guys that were just asking. We were told my first year in the league, when we get into a certain town, to go right to the hotel, not to get involved in anything that seemed shady. Some players listed, others didn't. We all know a lot of games are played on the plane rides here and there. I steered clear, but go back to 2002 playoffs. Lakers and the Kings. We all know about Western Conference Finals, the disparity, Donaghy, the whole 9 yards. Check out the Eastern Conference Finals. Nets versus Boston. The league was dying to get the Celtics Lakers in the finals. Instead, Nets versus Lakers, who swept the Nets 4-0. Look at game 3. Lakers attempted 35 foul shots, Nets 19. Game 4, Q, Lakers shot 37 free throws, Nets 16. Enough said, Rich. The refs have been in bed with the shady books and mafia for years, and now the mafia and the shady books have gotten to the players. It's because they all get set up by these poker games and meet the wrong dudes. Now, he's not saying that it's just because of these poker games. What he is basically saying, the underlining theme is that ultimately, it's the players, it's been the refs that have been under the spotlight and a lot of scrutiny. And then again, you're in contact with someone, you're doing a meet and greet, you meet a friend of a friend of a friend, and there you go, you get sucked in. And that's pretty much all she wrote. I think four majors won't let go of the gambling sponsorship, so this will continue to happen. So let me ask you this question. In baseball, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. See, I don't believe that pro athletes should be allowed to bet on sports. I just don't believe that. I don't. Now, if you go back to baseball, and we know about all the issues, imagine if Rob Manfred decided the next CBA, he would tell the players, well, guess what? I'm not going to allow you guys to bet on sports outside of baseball, not including baseball. You're not going to do it. CBA is never going to go for that. They're not going to go for that. That's number one, right? They're not going to go for that. Second of all, he's got bigger fish to fry, right? But point being is everything's got to go through the collecting and bargaining agreements and the union. So I think Pandora's box was opened when, and the thing is, like, you listen to different podcasts with athletes, they're playing fantasy football. That's a form of gambling. You know, you watch Inside the TNT, Charles Barkley, who is a renowned degenerate gambler, compulsive gambler. It's almost like glorified. And then you got to throw it back at us and say, shame, shame, shame. Like, that's where I have the problem. Not with Barkley personally, but just how it's approached. And that's where we're running into a lot of issues, conflicts, difference of opinion. Like, I can't sit here and tell you if I drop my Back Your Play podcast and I'm sitting here screaming about everything going on, and then I sit there and say promo code BYP20, right? Obviously, we know it's for Fresh Roasted, but that's like I'm being a hypocrite. I'm contradicting myself. But all these sports leagues open themselves up. ESPN's got an app for betting. Now we want to turn a blind eye, and all these other people now, the Billups of the world, the Porters of the world, the Roziers of the world, you know, these guys got to all be jettisoned to an island. Look, what they did is not right. You know, you broke the law, but point is, let's not be holier than thou. And you're not gonna you've legalized. You know, we've monitored it. We've tried to police it at a certain way, at a certain level, and again, it's just been through the dawn of time. The Romans were betting. The gladiators. I mean, it's like you can't do anything about it. You just can't. And I'm telling you, ask anyone tuning in right now. You guys probably a little kid. Oh, I bet you this, I bet you that. But now it's to the point where, and Jonathan brought up a great point. You allow these college kids, and these kids are getting hundreds of thousands of dollars NIL, and it's a click away. Look at the majority of these kids, they get sucked in so early because they have no discipline. They have none. You're sticking a 19-year-old walking into a gentleman's club for the first time. I mean, it's like walking into a candy store. They know how to control themselves. It's what you're doing with now. You're going to allow these kids making hundreds of thousands, maybe NIL deals, or even just regular college kids, or maybe they have access to money. Go ahead, yeah, you can bet. Have fun with it. I'm not saying, you know, Florio basically was like almost saying you have to, um, um, you know, we legalize. It shouldn't be legalized, like sports betting, sports gambling. You're talking about some of these poker games that are just, um, you know, not policed. They're rigged, and if you're hanging out in a sketchy area and you're hanging with sketchy people and you're getting mixed up in that, and you go hang out and you're playing a poker game, more times than not, you're probably asking for trouble. You're probably asking for trouble. By the way, AJ Brown ruled out for Sunday's game, but you're probably asking for trouble. It's just a bad look all around. The optics are bad. The players that are in this tragic play, it's bad, right? And I'm telling you, man, if you go back 2023, Hornets Pelicans, that's the game under investigation. And that's the game that Terry Rozier allegedly tipped off friends he would leave the game early. He left that game a couple minutes in with the ankle injury. Like, the film doesn't lie. Now, I averaged about 21 that season, but the film doesn't lie. So where there's smoke, I believe there's fire. He took himself out of that game after 10 minutes of play because he had a foot injury. He scored 5 points. So here you go. He's averaging 21. I'm playing the under. You know, he's had 4 or 5 straight games where he scored 28, 30 points. I'm going to play the under. So bettors who took the over that he scored more than 21 obviously lost. The people that Rozier allegedly tipped off, however, won big. So apparently one of his friends, Denario Laster, allegedly shared information with others who placed a total of 250,000 in prop bets. Now, you know as much as I do. You guys sit there on your app every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and your prop bets are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 bucks. Let's just call it for what it is. Because you're doing them so fast and sporadically, You throw 100 in the account, you're playing a prop 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Oh, I'm down 25 bucks. Oh, I'm up 25 bucks. So now you got this kid or this guy last year makes hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then he drops off the money. He drops off the money to Rozier's home to count the money. How stupid do you have to be? You can't teach stupid. But this is a major problem. The film doesn't lie. But I still believe that what Billups did is worse. It's worse. And the problem is when you friggin' give people access to large amounts of money, they act like jerk offs. They have no friggin' discipline. None. And now we're going to allow college kids to gamble? Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Yep. Good luck with that. Get the kid that just signed the NIL deal for a couple 100,000 and then watch you blow it on a Sunday afternoon. Go ahead. Then come talk to me. And again, as I said, I'm not being a hypocrite because I do a weekly pod on gambling. I'm just telling you how I feel. There's just no moral ground. I can't even be met in that regard. I mean, there's no discipline, and it's unfortunate, but that's apples and oranges compared to what these two clowns did. I mean, Billups, my goodness, I don't even know what to say with that. I don't know. It was James Bond-ish as we welcome in our good friend John Bueller from Fansided, kind enough to join us on a Friday. All right, I know you've kind of heard a little bit of my rant there. Are you shocked, surprised, or just, hey, this is a non-story, the NBA gambling scandal?
Well, I was just going to say I'm doing a lot better than Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier today, Rich. But
You are.
it's just like, how stupid can we be here? I mean, we've already dealt with like the Boston College point shaving scandal. You talk about the college kids beforehand. I know Iowa State lost a bunch of players 2 years ago for similar reasons, with like alleged gambling and everything like that. But it's, the NBA wants to do everything in its power, or it claims in everything in its power, like say it's not fixed. Well, this is doing a really poor job of that.
It's doing a really poor job of it. Billups didn't buy the mark cards, special glasses, shufflers, readers that see every card in the deck and predict winners. No, but what he did is he cheated people.
Yeah.
He brought them to the table. That's theft by deception. It doesn't matter about the elaborate scheme, but once I walk you into the door, because I'm telling you, you can play with me and a couple other former players, and then I take you for millions. Come on, man. Just because, and I hate to say it like this, you know, John buys the gun, I pull the trigger. Who's more responsible, right? I
Yeah.
mean, come on. And I hate to use that as a very harsh example, but sometimes you got to be like that because it doesn't matter if he didn't buy a chip or a Mark Deck or anything. He led the prey right to the wolves' den. That's exactly what he did, and they took advantage of it. I think also too. Do you feel as it is comical, right? When you watch some of these sports talk shows and they're talking about this, and then what's flashing on the screen? All these promos, all these discounts, all these scan codes, QR codes for sports betting and gambling.
God, we're all corporate shills, aren't we? In some capacity, it's all about dollars. Trying to talk about the ethical, moral high ground of gambling. On the games, apparently these players and coaches are up taking a part in. But let's be sure that ESPN bet gets a cut of that. Again, I'm not really a gambling type. I like the odds and the numbers of that. Being able to pick a matchup here, I've got enough vices as is, but like I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking, like, Billups, you're a Hall of Fame player. You're one of the greatest Pistons of all time. You're one of the greatest players of Colorado. You're the head coach of the Blazers. Like, what are you actually doing here, man? And then,
That's and I don't think that it's that point has been echoed. It's again, I mention it to sometimes you have that moment in life where you're like, okay, how did we get here?
yeah,
Like, and for it, we don't know.
we
He could
really
have pissed
don't.
off the wrong person. He could have been in bed with the wrong group. He could have did a solid for someone and it backfired. I just don't know. But these are serious allegations. And if there's 20, 30 something odd internal investigations done by the NBA that just come to light regarding sports betting and gambling, that tells me the NBA has a problem. And
Yeah.
Adam Silver does not want to admit that.
Adam Silver doesn't want to admit anything, man. Like he just knows Ferratu. It's Halloween. He's too busy doing that right now to care. I do think with Billups though, correct me if I'm wrong. I think he kind of grew up like a tougher part of Denver and everything like that. So maybe you can't always like shake this stuff from the past or
Oh,
whatever.
I get it. I get it. But also, too, there's a difference, right? I'm not saying it's hard, sometimes code of the street, you can't shake some guys. But when you voluntarily hook up with our FBI friend said, La
Yeah.
Cosa Nostra. I was waiting for him to sit there and say, consigliere. When you hook up with the mafia and the mob and you do it on your own accord, that's a problem.
And then I guess if I go with like Rozier, I mean, how many bad seeds have we seen come out of Louisville before? Like it's just like can never shake that either.
You're
I mean,
pegging Louisville now.
they have it's the birds with teeth. Birds don't have teeth. They have teeth there. I mean, you've got what Bobby Petrino there, Rick Pitino, this Papa John. Not necessarily the best people, but like I'm all for like Jeff Brom and them figuring it all out. But like, come on, dude, like. Just because it's the Hornets and Pelicans, like you can't get away with this. Like this is the NBA. I mean, if this was like what Knicks, Lakers, maybe not so much, but like you still can't get away with it in this game.
Listen, there's bad officiating. I think I've said it for years, especially again with the whole Donaghy thing came out. Uh, refs are on the take.
Yeah,
I don't care if someone's like, you can't make that I'm making the comment. Refs are on the take. I mean, it's just, in baseball, what do? We sit there and with these umpires, it's graded, right? I mean, so if you have a poor grade, then I'm not going to have you in a playoff series or a World Series. I believe it's the same. It should be the NFL. I look at it like this. I would take there's a flip side to this. 2 or 3 highly graded zebras. Those are the guys I want during the playoffs and or the Super Bowl. But then the counter argument is made to me. A lot of these groups, they understand each other. They referee together. So, they it's like they're comfortable with each other, right? They're in unison. So now all of a sudden you're getting a couple different guys who might grade out good, and then you're sticking them all together and go do the AFC or the NFC championship game. You might not get that type of consistency. Or every year you're retrained. I mean, you're going to make mistakes, but in certain cases, that has nothing to do with a player that's continuously turning over the basketball or a play in basketball. Basketball is the easiest sport to manipulate the stats.
yes,
Period. Period. I land what seems to be awkward on a rebound. I take myself out. The wet surface, I have a turnover. Right? I'm missing 3-pointer. It's just not my night from beyond the arc. It's so easy to manipulate it. If we're watching a quarterback drop back to pass 25 times and he throws 7 picks, something's up.
yeah. I mean, like in football, you got to play all out because you're going to get seriously hurt. Like I played basketball growing up. I was a power forward that couldn't really shoot, but like there were some times like I'm going to really go after this rebound, or I'm just not going to do that. You can dictate the pace, possession.
Right.
You only have 10 guys or girls on the field on the court at a time. They can all possess the basketball in possession. So that's a good point. That's a good point there. You mentioned officiating, but they had that referee that really botched that game versus UJ and Auburn. Again, I was on the good side of it now, but like the SEC is like, yeah, we can't have that just because Auburn cried a bunch.
We see bad officiating and bad refereeing all the time. This is a great comment from Man. It's something I brought up too. Could these players be indebted to the mob, had to agree this for the rest of their lives or get whacked? When you start to bring up violence, yeah, I mean, it is like a movie. Now
Yeah.
you're on the hook. We have you. We have you, man. And guess what? If you don't come through, we're not only going to take care of you, or we're going to harm people you love. That's what they
Yeah.
typically do, right? Forget about the break, the old school. We're not going to break your fingers or your legs, just that. We're going to go and we're going to hurt your family. And yeah, you're right. So meaning they aren't chasing money. They were cornering into this. I believe there's an element of that. I think it's more susceptible to the college athletes. We saw that back in the day. I mean, think about this. Everyone loves the movie Goodfellas, right?
Yeah.
My friend will tell you it's the greatest movie of all time. But be that as it may, how do you think Henry Hill was pinched? They were wiretaps talking about sports betting, right? And that goes to show back in the day, the scandal in Boston College, Arizona State in '87, the point shaving. SMU with some of those issues as well. So I think the college kids, you can get to them. I believe you would get to them easier than, say, professional athletes.
Yeah, because there's like layers to it. Like, yeah, we may live in a world with NIL and like, representation and stuff like that in college, but like the pros, like you've got like an agent, you've been through this for several years and everything like that. Like you shouldn't be this easily accessible. College,
Correct.
just go down one dark alleyway and around like whatever town you're at.
Right. And remember, like in the case of Henry Hill,
Yeah.
he basically he got a couple guys from Pittsburgh. And that's when if you go back and you watch the doc on that 78-79 Boston College team, point shaving.
Yeah.
Point shaving. So, and remember, the one participant I think was their center, and he was like a high school friend of one of the gamblers. So
Right.
he turns around and I'm gonna encourage my teammates. Hey man, here's the scheme, right? Here's the scheme. And I remember too in another doc, Henry Hill basically said, "I got NBA referees in my pocket," and guess what? I wouldn't put it past him.
No, I mean he had that kind of pull back in the day. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's like I said, man. It's man. And then what do you do with Chauncey Billups, right? As far as I know, this is secondary, but here's a guy that's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, like it's like the only thing it's totally different, but like how the Blue Jays basically like erased like Roberto Alomar from everything like
Yep,
that.
yep,
You kind of
yep,
wonder how the Bills have kind of gone with like
yep,
OJ Simpson. I mean, if Kurt Schilling would have gotten in the Hall of Fame, we wonder if that would have happened with his, his
yep,
antics and everything
yep.
like that. It's so tough because he was such a great player and so important to those Pistons teams, but like this stuff sticks with you. And I don't know what Portland's going to do. They still, again, that's still part of what the Paul Allen trust up there. The ownership's still kind of in flux or whatever like that. But like it's
Well, it's
it's
going to
not
be interesting too, John. Not to cut you off. I wonder going forward how many. Now think about this. Portland doesn't have a head coach.
no.
I mean, they do by default, but watch what happens to Portland and watch the odds with some of these games. Like, for instance, I already saw the line dropped a lot. They play Golden State, and I think it's now at 1.5. You would think it would get bet up a little more with more money on Golden State,
Yeah.
but it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out with Portland. And look, this was a team that was bad in the preseason. They lost a tough one to Minnesota the other night. Here's another question before we hit the NFL. Are you as kind of as I am with the timing of this? NBA tips off Wednesday, and then this comes down on Thursday.
Just brutal, man. Like you want to have like your season, you want everything with your season to be like smooth sailing coming in. Like you don't want to have any sort of like roadblocks here. You don't want to have like any sport. Like you don't want to have that because you're fighting for eyeballs here. It's a very fractured sports market. You got the World Series going on, major college football, NFL is fully underway, NHL is going, MLS postseason kind of coming up, and everything like that. Like college basketball is right around the corner. Like
Yep.
you can't afford to have somebody who's a casual fan like you or I or anybody else to basically say, I'd rather just not do this today.
Yeah. Yeah. Catman chimes in. Q. Let's be honest. The entire NBA is rigged. The other question before we get in the NFL now, the load management debate really starts to come into play, right?
Yeah, it does.
Oh man.
Load management. I mean, I think like I don't know what Kawhi Leonard's jersey number, but his might as well be like 55 or 58, just because that's
Yeah,
how
right. Exactly. Right. What is his second job, so to speak. All right, your Falcons, who by the way, man, every time I kind of dismiss them. Now they played hard against the 49ers. Obviously, I felt that was a 49er spot, maybe a little let down against Buffalo, but laying 7.5 against Miami. Now, I think our number's too high. Look, here we go. We'll segue into gambling with the picks in these games. I'm more inclined. I guess my thought is in with this game, I'm still waiting to see what the Miami Dolphins do with McDaniel. And now that Wilson's been relegated to emergency quarterback third string, you got Tua there. He's throwing picks left and right. Can you envision a scenario your Falcons are up, say, 17-6, 17-3 at the half or the third quarter, and Tua gets benched?
That's very much in play here. I think 7.5 kind of stay away for me just because I know what the Falcons are capable of. Like there could be some sort of dumb backdoor cover where like the Dolphins lose by 7 or something like that. Like they could be down like 10 or so, kind of like what the Commanders were a couple of weeks ago. They kick a field goal, then another possession, they don't get the onside kick and what have you. But there's a chance this could be Mike McDaniel's last game leading the Dolphins here and everything like that. And if Zach Robinson leaves Atlanta, come down to Atlanta, Mike McDaniel. You've been here before. I think he's going to be a really good OC. I think he's kind of lost the plot there as a head coach.
I'm going to give you 2 upsets. I actually think the Jets have an opportunity to not only cover, but beat Cincinnati outright.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I think Flacco's due to have one of those Flacco type of games, right? Everyone was all on him on Pittsburgh. Here we go. I know the Jets offense is a little banged up. Woody Johnson comes out and says what he says about Justin Fields. Aaron Glenn, there's another head coach that might be one and done. Aaron Glenn refuses to name a starter. That's fine. But Aaron Glenn keeps battling the media. And you're not going to win. Like,
Yeah.
the problem is, so I had a couple of Jet fans this week. They're like, you're being too hard on Aaron Glenn. That's what a head coach. Hold on. What competitive advantage? Tyrod Taylor stinks and Justin Fields stinks. So you're going to give me this, well, it's competitive advantage. I don't want to give a competitive advantage. Just name a friggin' starter, man. But I will say this. I feel as though the Jets can keep this game close.
Yeah, the Bengals are a team that I just don't trust because there's such a ebb and flow with the quarterback. Basically without Burrow, it's kind of like a week to week sort of thing here. Again, I don't necessarily trust the Steelers at the top of the division right now. I mean, the Bengals did beat them head to head, but this is the Bengals. They could beat the Steelers and then they could lose the Jets within 2 weeks of each other. It's totally within the realm of possibility. Not very high on the Jets. I don't think that they're going to go winless. It's so difficult to do that in this day and age.
Yep.
I'd probably go with Tyrod at this point. I think he's a little bit more even-keeled than Justin Fields. But also, Aaron Glenn, you knew what you were signed up for, man. You played here. You went to Pro Bowls here. You know what the Jets are about. Granted, it's different ownership, but how could you be this obtuse, man?
They are. But right now, we would have to say, if we're talking about the worst run organization in professional sports, I know we get on Cleveland, but the Jets they have no rhyme or reason of what they're doing at all. They just don't.
No, they're trying to play second or third fiddle to whomever it is, whether that's the Patriots, whether that's the Bills, whether that's the Giants. It doesn't matter. And I don't know what they got to do to change this thing around besides get new ownership, but that's never going to happen.
No. It's just, I get so many tweets coming in. People are tagging me on stuff gambling wise, and you don't know what's accurate and you don't know, what's not. I mean, because everyone's now doing the AI generated stuff, and it's like, all right, that's, I need a little proof here. Speaking of the Browns, they've got the Patriots. They go on the road, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you an upset special right here. The Browns defense will keep this in the game, and I'm still trying to figure out, are the Pats legit? Now, hear me out. They lost to the Raiders. They lost to the Steelers. They beat the Panthers. They beat the Bills. I'll give them that. They've been beat up on the Saints. They beat up on the Titans. I like Drake May. I like what they're building there. But Cleveland's defense is really sneaky good. Their run defense is really good. I think they're going to keep them in the game.
You're not wrong here. I think that last week you said the Titans have a shot here, but the Titans are kind of dead to rights at this point. I was kind of it's the whole Mike Vrabel of it all. So the Patriots will take this seriously. Yep. I think there's a chance the Patriots could be really feeling themselves. And I think the Browns aren't a good team, but they play hard. There's things about this team that I think they have a puncher's chance in pretty much every game that they play. They're not going to win them all because they're dysfunctional as hell. But I think there's a chance where the Patriots just kind of overlook the Browns, and it might cost them. Also, Drake May will turn the ball over. I've kind of not really liked that a lot about his early career out of UNC.
It's a good thing you didn't join me on Monday's show. My head almost imploded with the Giants. They get the game now against the Eagles. No A.J. Brown, by the way. He's out. He's been ruled out. So now offense takes a little hit after the performance that they had against Minnesota. Giants on the road. I don't know how you respond. I pulled a couple stats up where you go back to when teams really have devastating losses. And we went, the most recent, aside from Denver and the Giants, last year, Chicago and Washington, the Hail Mary. Washington went that way. Chicago went that way. So as a Giant fan, I was pulling out some of these games, and I remember the Kiwanuka game. They were up 21-0. They lost that game 24-21 against Vince Young and the Titans. Deshaun Jackson returning the punt late. They blew that game. They came back. They got waxed by Green Bay, and I think they beat Minnesota. They won 10 games that year, but the game after against Green Bay, that hurt their playoff chances. They're not a playoff team. I want to see how they respond. Do you believe that the Giants will put forth a good effort on Sunday? Forget about the line being a touchdown, touchdown and a half. Or do you think this is a game where, man, I don't know how they respond after what I saw with that collapse. They're going to get waxed.
I think that they'll put forth a decent effort because they know that that's at stake. I mean, the loss to the Broncos is kind of unforgivable, but also you beat the Eagles earlier in the season, so you kind of know that you can do it. With the Eagles, they've been so frustrating to watch because it's like, I know the talent's there, but then again, maybe it's not. I think there's been major coaching attrition there in Philadelphia, which hurts the Eagles. I mean, I still think Detroit or Tampa or maybe even the 49ers or Rams are better than them.
Yeah.
But like the Giants got to keep this thing on the rails because it's going to cost Dayball and Shane their jobs. Because I mean, it may be delaying the inevitable here, but like you can't let this get into Jackson Dart's head. You just can't let that happen.
What happens if, look, they lost the game to the Cowboys, which, lesson be learned, you would think, and then they pulled the same thing defensively, dropping back 8 in coverage against Denver. They beat the Chargers. They went on the road and were up 14-3 against the Saints, but rookies played like rookies. You mentioned they did beat the Eagles 34-17. They should have beat Denver. They are a 2-5 team right now. What do we have? 7. They got 10 games left. If Jackson Dart goes 5-5, they beat the Vikings, they beat the Raiders, they beat the Bears, they beat the Commanders, or even 4-6, and they finish with 6-7 wins, and he's showing the progressions that you would want to see. Does that strengthen Dayball's case now and Joe Shane's case where, hey, this is a guy we handpicked? Now we can make an argument where we should be coming back.
I would say so. I think at that point, it's like you enter next year on a very hot seat. And like if you start off like 0-3 or like 1-4, maybe you're gone at that point here. But
see, I don't like what you said right there. Then what's the point of bringing them back? I
yeah.
know we can't look into the future, right? If that makes sense. And they're already lame duck. Like it would have been easier if you would have said, look, we're going to give you 2 years. You're drafting Dart in April. We're going to sign you to a contract extension. Let's get it out of the way. 2 years, you and Joe Shane.
My big thing is I think this is going to be potentially the worst head coaching candidate pool in the NFL in a decade. I think it's really bad. Like the best guy probably out there I would say is probably Brian Flores. But again, there's like a stigma and stuff attached to it. You want Mike McDaniel, you want to bring Brian Callahan in. Like,
by the way, the Brian Flores, there's a stigma too, also because of what transpired when Belichick sent the wrong text.
Yeah. So like that's not really possible there with. But then again, Bobby Petrino is coaching at Arkansas, so anything could happen, Rich. But I don't know. Like I don't really have a good feel of like there's no real Ben Johnson out there. Although I've kind of been have had some trepidation about him being a good NFL head coach. I don't know. This doesn't seem like a cycle that's really going to intrigue me all that much. But maybe a better crop opens up here next year here. But Dable will find work very quickly if the Giants let him go. Maybe it's an OC in the NFL, maybe it's an OC in college or something like that. But you got to be kind of like you got to be damn sure if you're going to move on from him.
The Bills haven't really been able to stop the run. No. I know they're 4-2 coming off their bye. I don't know if Allen's 100%. That's a large number on the road against a team in Carolina that's going to go back to Andy Dalton. I saw a clip where someone said, here's the Panthers, and then there's Bryce Young, who was out pretty much like tiptoeing through the tulips, stretching, while the whole team was in the center of the field stretching. Again, optics, they don't look good. I actually think Carolina can keep this game close.
They're playing with a lot of momentum right now. I think there was like a podcast out there, like the Meow Mix. They're like, yeah, our wives don't like the fact that like we're doing this. We're 0-3. We're not going to pay attention. And I think they've like won every game since, including destroying my Falcons. Look, Dave Canellis is a fantastic head coach. He's a really good motivator, good offensive mind. They got to get more pieces in there. I don't think it's Bryce Young. Andy Dalton's a pro. Andy Dalton's been doing this for a long time. I think that like Carolina's a team that I'm not looking forward to seeing on the schedule at any point because like there's been some sort of come to Jesus moment within the locker room
Right.
where like, okay, I think we can do this. Atlanta's playing with its food. Maybe we can catch Tampa. We got to try.
The Cowboys and the Broncos, is this kind of show me who you are game for both of
Yeah,
these teams? 'Cause I still don't know. And I remember now, I went on the record. I have Denver beating Washington in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, Dallas can score. Denver's offense is but they play good defense. Dallas can't stop anyone. I feel like this is a game where, okay, show me who you really are.
that's a perfect way to describe it. Dallas is fun. I mean, they score a lot of points, can't play a lick of defense. The Trayvon Diggs thing is so frustrating. And then with like the Broncos, it's like you have an opportunity here to show us that like you are bona fide. I think the Chargers are kind of doing that right now, although I think the Vikings just suck. But like that's neither here nor there. Um, you got to take advantage of Kansas City still trying to figure it out, so to speak here. But we'll have a little bit better clarity with these two teams, with the Broncos and Cowboys, by this time next week.
Colts at home against the Titans. You got Green Bay and the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers saying it's not a big deal. We know it is. I'll tell you this. I don't know the overall what we're going to get from Lamar Jackson the rest of the way. I don't think he's going to be healthy. Hamstring injuries are always kind of iffy. I think the Bears are kind of poised for the upset, but I'm looking around the AFC North. I'm not sold on the Steelers. Cincinnati, to me, and again, I think the Jets will keep it close, maybe even win the game. But if you look at Cincinnati, they're 3-4 right now. They got the Jets, the Bears, the Steelers. Those are winnable games. And you get now to 6-4, you're probably feeling a lot different.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities here to get wins. This is a team that's got a lot of variance here that I don't necessarily trust. But look, at the end of the day, you have T. Higgins, you have Jamar Chase. When you've got the best wide receiver tandem in football are up there, like you're never really out of a game because you can just throw it to them. And Flacco may be, older, he may be slower, but he can still spin it. So if you connect with him, you're never fully out of a game.
Yeah, and then lastly, you got the Washington and the Chiefs, and I said the Chiefs were cooked after the Jacksonville loss. They are 4-3. It's amazing what happens. You get some offensive players. Let me start with this game by asking you right now: is Patrick Mahomes the league MVP?
He could be. I think there's a case for Daniel Jones, Indianapolis, with how well the Colts have played potentially.
Oh, you called the Colts winning the South. Just again, you called it.
There's other guys out there too, but like if Mahomes can kind of keep this thing staying afloat there, in Kansas City, while they've kind of had to sort it through for the first half of the season, he's in the mix there too. Again, it's still early to really tell, but like take a quarterback of a team that's certainly on top of things. Baker Mayfield didn't play very well versus the Lions, but prior to that, he's a candidate for it as well. Just I don't know, Mahomes, sure, he's lingering, and the longer he lingers, the better chance he has.
You like Kansas City in that spot on Monday night? Big line, 11.5.
I do. I think that the slogans and cliches that Dan Quinn spews out are starting to get old there in Washington, maybe a little bit too soon. Can't really trust Jaden Daniels physically week over week. Do you really want the overconfident idiot that is Marcus Mariota playing quarterback for you? I don't. The guy makes plays like he's in third. He's in third.
You're not a Mariota fan. You pretty much have. Yeah, you're a little harsh on Mariota.
There are people in Atlanta who hate Jeff George, and that's how I feel about Marcus Mariota.
Hey, Jeff George, just didn't have it between the ears. World Series game one tonight, Dodgers and the Blue Jays. I think the Dodgers win this one in 5. I've already gone on the record saying 5.
Yeah, I think that like they've got the momentum here. Again, I know there's like a player that's not going to be able to be part of this here. I don't really know the exact specificities with this, but like the Dodgers, like this is trodden territory. They know what to do. They have an opportunity to be the first team to repeat since the Yankees won 3 in a row, 98 to 2000.
Yep.
Also, the fact this is Kershaw's last year, they probably want to take him out there with a ring. I think that they're probably winning 6. I'm pulling for Toronto, but like I think it's inevitable. Shohei is on another planet.
That's
gambling. Bring it all back home.
It's funny too how that all of a sudden we kind of sweep it under
Yeah.
the rug, right?
Yeah, you just got to find your own ippy, I guess. Maybe Chauncey just needs to be nicer, I guess.
Listen, all I know is when that came about, I said, I look at my account, I see $100 missing. I want to know where the hell it went. You're looking
Yeah.
at a couple million. You're like, yeah, I didn't really realize. I know we got college football. What do you got with the pods this weekend as well?
Just kind of going through it with the tough loss to the 49ers. Penix has to play better. Divine Diablo breaking his forearm was not good, trying to stop Christian McCaffrey. But overall, I would say that Falcons fans should be pretty happy being 3-3 with a very tough schedule. Got a lot of winnable games coming up here. You got we got the Dolphins this week, got the Jets
Yep.
coming up. You could beat the
Yep.
Panthers, Saints. The Colts will be challenging, but Cardinals have been a lot worse. So the road to 10-7 is still very much possible. And on the college side of things, just trying to figure out who's going to make the playoff right now. Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon look the part in the Big Ten. In the SEC, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas A&M are kind of a cut above. Trying to figure out who's going to be the other 6 teams here. Also figuring out who the next head coach is going to be fired. It's probably going to be Hugh Freeze because Luke Fickell and Mike Norvell got votes of confidence, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we thought maybe Belichick after a couple of
Yeah.
debacles, but they, I mean, that's what are they 2-4, right? I think they have who do they have? Virginia coming up.
Oh, yeah, UVA is cooking. That's a rivalry game. The Hoos are going to smoke the Heels. And I don't know if you saw this. Michael Lombardi is the highest paid college football GM out there at like 1.5 million. It's unbelievable.
I just well, listen, it's not even nepotism; it's buddy, right? I mean,
Yeah,
there's a video circulating too back in the day. Belichick has shown him how to write team reports, player personnel reports.
it's unbelievable. I mean, like there's some other rock star GMs out there in college football, like Ron Rivera at Cal, Andrew Luck at Stanford, Jim Nagy of the Senior Bowl back in Oklahoma. They're all doing a lot better job than Michael Lombardi. It's been a detriment to UNC. I can't wait for this to be done after 1 year.
Funny Lombardi story. He worked for Veasan.
Mm-hmm.
Lombardi is a shore guy. He's Ocean City, New Jersey, right?
Mm-hmm.
So South Jersey down the shore. He worked for Veasan, which was Musburger. His nephew started Veasan, so it's all the sports betting, right? So I did a couple hits here and there, and when I was doing 1490 Sports Betting Radio, that's where I started Back Your Plays and my gambling pod. And they were like, "Yeah, we'll set you up with Lombardi." And I was like, "Okay." Well, now mind you, the station was 15 minutes from Ocean City. And I remember one time I destroyed him on air. Refused to come on my show after that. I'm not really going to blame him, but it was just, I destroyed him in the regard of his rationale behind some of these lines and the movement of the lines. I totally wanted to call him out on, but he decided he just didn't want to jump on little old me show. So that's a little story.
It's all about protecting your brand at the end of the day, Rich. No matter how big or small it is, you got to take care of you, bud.
Yeah, but that's why we have a Man Up Monday. It's a way to just man up on our mistakes. All right, brother. Great stuff as always. Enjoy the games. Enjoy college football, the NFL, the World Series, and we'll do it again next week. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Sounds good. See you next week. Have a great weekend.
You too. All right, there you got it. Our guy, John Bueller, jumping on for a couple of minutes. Give him a follow, too, on X. Also follow all the podcasts. He does a boatload of podcasts and really, really good content. I have right now almost 30, 40 something out on Facebook, X. I got to get to some of these messages. I got to hit a break. We got about 20 to play with. Tell me, guys, who you like this week and a lot of the NBA stuff as well. Quick time out. Don't forget, we're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Get ready with tea, 3 Brooks Bourbon, and, of course, Play It Again Sports. All right, good stuff from John. As I mentioned, let's rip through some of these games again. And as always, you can get social with me. I got a lot of comments coming in on the NBA, too. I want to read some of those. Vogie chimes in. Q, NBA badly needs someone focused on the integrity of the game. It's not going to come from the sportsbook operators whose real expertise is fleecing their own frigging customers, nor is it going to come from anyone in league offices who has prioritized revenue over integrity. Excellent show as always, Q. I appreciate that. That was a not a bad comment there. I mean, not listen. It is all about the integrity of the game, but now it's called into question. It's called into question. I mean, there's no other way. And as some of you guys pointed, you know, yes, people promote gambling. People promote betting, but it's never really a net positive, right? We talk about the game of chance. I'm trying to produce favorable outcomes for individuals, right? But that's not the reality we live in. Like, if you really just paid attention to what I said, that's not what it's about. I'm not creating it for that. So what it does is it's a short-term fix. It's like a drug. It's a short-term thrill. That's all it is. You guys really sit there that someone's trying to conjure up something that can be favorable for you, an outcome for an individual or a group of friends hanging out in Atlantic City? No, we're going to take your money. It's a game of chance. What happens is you speak to people that are really addicted. A lot of them, it's not even about winning. It's not even more or less the rush, even if they're losing. Have you ever walked into a casino? Here's a case study. Walk into a casino. Go to the high end because the casinos make their money in slots. Period. Slots. Walk into a casino, grab a cup of coffee, walk into a high-end slot area and just observe for a half an hour. And you watch how they feed the machine like it's a friggin' it's like they think it's like they're giving money back to an ATM machine. They just I don't have cash, ATM. I don't have cash. You got good credit? Let me check your finances. All right, now you got a marker. Like, it is entertainment purposes. And people get sucked in. And people can win a lot of money and they can lose a lot of money. But we're talking about it from a sports angle. The casino is not devised to help you and increase your odds of winning. It's the complete opposite. You're walking in. Unless you've walked in, never took out a buck and walked out, you broke even. Unless you walked in, won $1 and never stepped foot in a casino for the rest of your life, you're not going to win. You're not. You can win a little bit over time, but chances are the longer you're there, the more you're going to lose. Same thing, but do you ever notice when you're watching a game with your friends on a Sunday and the Giants are, I don't know, 4.5-point favorites, right? Giants on the road this weekend. All right, what are they? 7.5. Let's use that as an example. Giants are 7.5-point favorites. And you're watching the game with your friends, right? And obviously, the Eagles, if they win by 8, you cover the number. You're good because you took the Eagles on their side. It's, 21-10, right? And the Giants are, I don't know, they're going nowhere late in the season. They want to get a moral victory. So what do? They send out the field goal unit. They kick a field goal with under like 30 seconds left, which makes no sense. It's 21-13. And you look at your buddies and you're like, man, how do these books know? How do they know? They know because they're very good at what they do. They are very good at what they do. That's how they know. It's not designed to give you an advantage. It's designed to take your money. The casinos are not designed to give you an advantage. Yeah, it's entertainment, but the odds are never going to be in your favor. They're just not. They can sit there and say, I have slight odds over the house. It's like blackjack. You get a good run of cards, you get off the table. The longer you stay, you're going to lose the money. How deep do you think the NBA gambling issues? It's huge. It's huge. And this is why I'm saying a lot of guys are asking me, why do I feel that Chauncey Billups, what he did is worse? Because he got in bed with the mafia, man. I mean, he basically dangled the carrot. So again, you bought the gun, I pulled the trigger. I didn't pull the trigger, I bought the gun. Honestly, what difference does it make? You're still culpable. You should still be held accountable. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, you can't make this up. You can't. And you know what's funny? I'm telling you, like, so I saw Chauncey Billups wore a Clutch Sports hoodie, right? The bat signal for LeBron and Clutch Sports. Now everyone thinks LeBron is somehow going to be tied to this. I'm not saying that. But that's where we're going to go. Why? Because of Jones, and he's not going to play. And here you go. So again, you have a person in Chauncey Billups who allegedly tanked a game against the Bulls in the center of the betting scandal. Right? Now, again, we can kind of laugh it off and say it's kind of huge risk. You're putting faith in the Bulls to win a game, but it's ridiculous insider information. Go read it. Go read it. Prior to the game, the Trailblazers record was 32-40, and the team was out of playoff contention with only 10 games remaining in the season. Prior to the March 24th game, co-conspirator 8 told defendant Eric Ernest that the Trailblazers were going to be tanking to increase their odds of getting a better draft pick in the upcoming NBA draft. This is why I've argued the whole tanking narrative for years in sports, by the way. This is why I've always argued it. Co-conspirator 8 told Ernest before the news was publicly announced that several of the Trailblazers' best players, including player one, an individual whose identity is known to the grand jury, would not be playing in the March 24th game. The information that the Trailblazers would be tanking and not playing player one was not available to the public, including the betting companies. Prior to the March 24th game, the defendant, Eric Ernest, provided this non-public inside information to the defendant, Marvis Fairley, so that Fairley could place fraudulent wagers on the game and share the profits with Ernest. So you got a two-man job right there. In exchange, Fairley ultimately promised to pay Ernest at least $5,000 if the bet against the Trailblazers hit. You can't make this up. And the fact that, Joe's chiming in Q, I think you're being way overcritical of what Billups did. I'm not. He didn't lead the horse to the water. He didn't lead the camel to the water to drink. He didn't. He led these right in shark-infested waters. That's exactly what he did. Hey, I'm Chauncey Billups. Hey, man. Hey, guys, let's play poker, man. I can play with an NBA player. We got money. I got that trust fund. I know a guy of a guy of a guy. That's all they did. That's all they did. So I'm walking you right in the door, man. I'm walking you right in the door. So I should be held culpable. Yeah, I didn't fix the cards. I didn't rig the game. I didn't have the sunglasses or the marked chips. I didn't do any of that. But what I did is I took, Madman and Joey B and Chino and Michael and Vince and Tom and Summers Point and Kevin C. And I said, come on over here, guys. Yeah, hey, man, bring your cash. Let's go play with these guys. I'm going to hook you up with NBA players. I led you right into the darkness. That's just as bad as basically rigging the game itself. There's no gray in this. I walked you right into the dark alley, man. I walked you right into the dark alley. He fed them to the sharks. And these fishes, because they're gullible, lost millions of dollars. Lost millions. Chino chimes in, had an ex-girlfriend whose dad never watched sports because he adamantly believed it was all scripted and fixed. The NBA controversy seems to prove his case. A lot of people believe that, remember a couple years ago, the NFL script? Because we're cynics. We're cynics. But it just makes no $190 million, $100 million NBA career. So what? A buddy of yours or a family member can win a couple grand? There's got to be more to it. There has to be more to it. It makes no sense. And you got to be stupid because the film doesn't lie. It does not lie. And listen, so I saw that Rozier's lawyer confirmed with Pablo Torre that the NBA conducted an investigation. Terry was cleared by the NBA. Okay, fine. But he also went on to report in July he was never actually cleared by the feds, and that's who you have to worry about. NBA be damned. At this stage of the game, 32, 33, 100 million, you don't give a shit. Kick me out of the league. I'm going to be fine. I got generational money. I can take care of my kids. Feds come into play. That's a different ballgame, man. That is a big time. It's a big time. Levels, as we like to say. Tom and Summers point Q, handicap the Eagles and the Giants, no pun intended. I pretty much gave you my thoughts on that game. I kind of gave you my thoughts on that game. The Giants got to run the football. There's no A.J. Brown. I went over these numbers with Lloyd today. We cut a new edition of Back Your Play. It's staggering. And Lloyd brought up a great point. Derrick Henry will pick it up late in the season. Saquon's numbers have dropped. It's just utterly ridiculous. If the Giants can get pressure on Jalen Hurts, get a couple turnovers, shorten up the field, they can run the football. Jackson Dart has to limit his mistakes. I think the Giants will be able to put up some points this weekend. I just don't know mentally. That defense gave up 33 friggin' points in the fourth quarter of an NFL game, in a game that we've never seen anything like that happen in 1,600 NFL games. How do you respond? So for those that are pro Brian Daboll, if the Giants go out and lose 21-16, 24-21, and play their guts out, and the Eagles just clamp down or better, you come on the air Monday, hey, he had him ready to coach. But if the Giants go on the road down the turnpike, and oh, by the way, just to let you know, the Giants haven't swept the Philadelphia Eagles. They haven't swept the Philadelphia Eagles since 2007. I don't know why I was going to say 1997. 2007. Think about that. That's the year they won the Super Bowl, and they started 0-2 that year. 2007. And Philly has been a house of horrors for the Giants. Giants haven't won there in 12 years. The last time the Giants went in Philadelphia, won a friggin' football game, was 2013. So if they go down and they lose this game 34-6 and they don't no-show, all bets are off with Daboll, man. All bets are off. Like, the win against the Eagles would have been a nice reprimandum on his coaching career. And then to follow it up to go on the road and beat Denver. Wonderful. Now you got a little juice at 3-4. Now you got confidence. You beat the Eagles 4-4, but now at 2-5 and you blow that lead, and then you get waxed on Sunday. Now you're 2-6, and here we go. Season's over by Halloween. When the FBI has a press conference of what is happening equals bad news. Yes. I love the FBI guy too, right? He was like so proud of himself when he was just like, we will not mess with, or we will not have, X, Y, and Z. And the message to La Costa Nostra, right? The mafioso, the mob. Like, all right, we get it, man. You're pouting your chest. Q, did you see that your boy Florio, Rip and Reed, wrote that individual player props will be made illegal by many of the states? Stop. He is such a wet blanket, man. Rip and Reed Florio. He needs to just freaking go away. Seriously. Go write something about Deflategate from 25 years ago. No one gives a shit about what your what your thought is. I don't. It's just a very bizarre last couple of days with the NBA. And as I mentioned, look, when you have an addiction, you don't make sound decisions. Your judgment is not all there, right? So if you want to argue it's an impulse, it's a behavior, it's an addiction, like alcoholism, drug use, sex addiction, like gambling, to be an addict. And listen, I know many that have gambling problems, working in the industry. I've seen it up close and personal, and it's ugly. It's ugly. And my concern is with the NCAA. I just think I think they're really opening up a can of worms where these young kids, they get to rush, right? You know the old expression, right? Money won is sweeter than money earned. They get this rush. 18, 19, 20 years old, man, I want a quick 50 bucks. Oh, I want a quick $100. I mean, we played cards in college. We did. We had poker games and we had money. We played blackjack, you know, spades. You guys play spades. We played dice. We played domino. We had something where there was a gambling element. Crap, you're walking outside, you pick up a couple rocks, and here you go. I'll bet you this, or you're flipping the caps, You're doing it with the dice. It starts off very young. But these kids now, especially the ones that are athletes and might get these NIL deals, and now they're dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars, I just think you are opening up a can of worms, man. I just, and I Barkley made the comment that the NBA dropped the ball. Um, I think the NBA turned a blind eye. I think the NBA sits there on their righteous sofa or their righteous soapbox and they sit there and say, we're an innovator. We think outside the box. That's who Adam Silver is. And they just turned a blind eye, man, because they never thought it was going to bite them in the ass. And the other thing is, so I do another pod, Overseas Dimes, where I basically just highlight basketball overseas because the game is growing exponentially. Whether you're talking about over in the islands, the Caribbean, in Latin Central America, in Thailand, in the Philippines, in Malta, wherever. I had a player on, I would say 3 weeks ago. It might have been long, maybe it was a month or so ago. Derek Brown. It's on my YouTube channel. And we were talking about his experience playing overseas. And he had an incident where a coach tripped him. Like he literally was coming back on defense, and the opposition coach tripped him, and it's all captured. It was a big thing because they wanted to suspend the team, they wanted to fire, suspend the coach. It was a very bad look. But I remember I asked him, kind of in tongue in cheek, so that's kind of dirty over there. How they kind of did you, dirty. And I was like, man, who knows? Maybe they had money on the game. And he said, overseas is some of the corrupt level of basketball you will ever see. You will ever see. He said the gambling shadiness is just on another level, man. The refs are in on it, players are on it, coaches. I mean, it's so unsanctioned. Now imagine that bleeds into the NBA. Well, we're somewhat seeing it, but there will be more names to come out, and I believe it's going to get worse before it gets better. Silver needs to speak up. He's got to just basically, get out in front of this. And quite frankly, he really hasn't. He really hasn't. I mean, you have to, if you're the commissioner of the league, right? Then show me some action. Show me some action. And if you can't do that, then we got a problem here, right? All right, don't forget, we got all the picks. I got all the plays up on BYP. Also got them on the YouTube channel. Good stuff from John Bueller, John Marshall. Back Your Play is out. It's on Spotify, Amazon Music as well. Also Apple. You got the World Series Game 1 tonight. I told you I like the Dodgers. You got the Eagles and the Giants, 1 o'clock kickoff. You got some good 4 o'clock games. A lot of college football. We might be back on the air tomorrow for a Saturday show. So follow me on social media at Rich Q on Q. But as I mentioned, you guys are unbelievably fantastic for chiming in for 2 hours. I appreciate it greatly. We're powered by Three Brooks Bourbon, Get Ready with Tea, Jersey Shore Breaks, Fresh Roasted Coffee, BYP20, and Play It Again Sports. Everyone have a wonderful sports weekend. Enjoy college football. Enjoy the NFL games and the World Series. We will do it again on a Monday edition of On Q. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.